Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, and this is a special emergency podcast on the Azzurri after Italy were thrashed 3-0 by Norway, which puts Italy at risk of missing a third World Cup in a row. Nima is not here. He was celebrating his birthday last night, which was a lot better than the rest of us, as we had to sit through and watch one of the worst performances by an Italy team maybe ever. So I'm joined today by Alfredo Marabese, who is our social media manager. You get to meet him for the first time. He's done a fantastic job on our socials for the last couple of months. Sorry, Alfredo, it couldn't be in better circumstances. But we're gonna throw you straight into the deep end here. We're going to ask you the big question that everyone's asking this morning after watching that 3-0 last night and seeing what you've seen from Spalletti since he took charge. Is it time for Luciano Spalletti to go?
I think it's been time. It should have happened after the European Championships last year, and that game last night is so emblematic of his 2 years in charge. There's no identity. I think he's lost control of the dressing room. I don't think the players have a clue what on earth he's trying to do. I don't think they respect him massively. And the results over the last 2 years speak for themselves. He has to go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you brought up a few points there, all of which I agree with. So I guess let's work our way through those. Let's start with what you said at the end there, the results. Because at the end of the day, it's the results that count. And I would just say the results and the performances have been, with the exception of 2 months, September and October of last year, the UEFA Nations League, where we beat France away in Paris, and we started that group really well, and we were playing some really good football. And we were saying, now we're seeing the real Spalletti after the disaster of the Euros. He's got he's finally got going. It's looking good. I would say, with the exception of those 2 months, the results and the performances have been, and it's almost 2 years he's been in charge. So I think that's more than enough now time to make a conclusion on Spalletti. Either side of that, just not good enough at all. You've got the flop at Euro 2024. You've got the fact that we were quite lucky even to qualify for the Euros. I mean, let's be honest, that was a penalty, wasn't it? The Ukraine.
It was a penalty.
It was a penalty. Otherwise it's a playoff for that. And who knows what happens there. And finally, our form is abysmal. Why should we stick with him when we've conceded 11 goals in our last 4 games? I don't see any sign that things are going to improve under Spalletti.
I haven't seen any improvement apart from, like you said, those 2 Nations League games against France and Belgium where we played quite well, which ended up meaning absolutely nothing anyway. Those again at the Euros, that game against Spain, I've never seen an Italy side dominated. So it was just, I was there at the stadium. It was embarrassing. It was just like, it was men against boys, followed up by arguably an even worse performance against Switzerland, where we just showed no fight, no character. Again, the players looked as lost then as they did last night. Where have we improved?
We haven't improved in defence, that's for sure. We can't defend. I mean, this is an incredible stat. So Spalletti's been in charge for 19 games. We've only kept 3 clean sheets in those 19 games. Now, for me, that's abysmal when you consider the quality of defenders and the quality of our goalkeeper that we have. Now, I'm not saying that our defence is at the level of what it was in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, when we had all-time legends in our teams. But I still think, in comparison to other nations, I don't think the quality of our defenders, certainly our centre-backs, is a problem when they're all available. Obviously, we had a few injuries last night, but the quality is there. So to only keep 3 clean sheets in 19 games, to concede, like I said before, 11 goals in 4 games, that's on Spalletti. It's as simple as that.
100%. And I think you've seen as well some of his leadership qualities and management being almost quite weak, in the sense that he came and he wanted to play his famous 4-3-3, and he quickly realized that maybe his players didn't suit it. But instead of like trying to, keep going with it and try and play that way, he folded, maybe smartly, and played to our strengths, played the five at the back, but he doesn't know how to play a five at the back. And that I think has never been more clear than the last four games. It's all over the place. It's so disjointed. The players don't look like they have a single idea. And a lot of these players play in the five at the back as well, or have played in the five at the back. And they just don't have an idea. You can tell when they step on that pitch, they've got no confidence and they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree with the back three, which I want to come on to in a bit. But just to talk. Well, actually, no, let's talk about it now. So yeah, you mentioned about the back three. So I think that he's compromised too much and hasn't been himself, because, like you said, like his whole career, you look throughout all of Spalletti's career, where have we seen the best of Spalletti? It's always been with the back four. I think he did use the back three once earlier on in his career, or maybe at Inter for a while, but not with success. And it's always been the success we saw at Napoli, what we saw at Roma, the first Roma spell. I mean, it was with a back four. That's what Spalletti is good at. That's what he knows to do, knows how to do. And so by playing a back three, which, yes, on paper, maybe our players are suited more to a back three. All the teams in Italy, big teams, pretty much are playing back threes now. But if the manager doesn't know how to use a back three, it's irrelevant if the players play there, because that manager's got to coach them and train them and set them up and organize them in a back three. And he's incapable of doing it. So that leaves you either he sticks with the back four, or we get another manager in terms of if we're talking tactically here. So it's as simple as that. And the results, the performances speak for themselves. They don't know how to play this back three. It's terrible. And the organisation, there is no organisation. He can't organise a team. And going back to defending, how many goals do we concede off set pieces? Like, have a look at the numbers of goals we've conceded off set pieces. I don't think we conceded last night off a set piece, but they did hit the bar. Did they hit the bar off a set piece, off a corner? Didn't they, at 3-0? So, I don't see any reason. And then offensively as well, if we look at the attack, yes, we'll come on to this later in another segment. Yes, we do lack quality in attack. We know that. And that's going to be hard for any manager in charge. But, you see games where we just never look like creating anything. And last night was an example of that. 0.21 XG against Norway. We didn't have a shot on goal until the 91st minute with Lorenzo Luca. And it was, again, a lot of comparisons being made to that Switzerland game, haven't they? Where we just didn't create anything. We never looked like creating anything. And we never fought back. We never showed any spirit or any fight or any reaction. And that's the worrying thing.
That's exactly. There was no catalyst. You'd think going 1-0 down early to Norway away from home. All right, okay, let's lift it. 2-0 down. Let's lift it. 3-0 down. Let's lift it. There was no reaction, not one change. It was the same against Switzerland. But then I also think, this kind of branches out onto another point. But I think for Spalletti, you're playing away against Norway. You look at those forwards, Haaland, Sorloth, Nusa, even Odegaard, when he's got space in front of him, that's when they're all at their most dangerous. You've seen Azzurri be an interplay against Haaland before, those types of strikers. How do you quell them? You sit deep and you keep it tight. You minimise the space in behind. Spalletti played high, wanted to keep the ball and create chances with a team who can't create chances. We're a team who are blunt offensively. What happens? We move the ball side to side, side to side. We're like a team of crabs. And inevitably, when we lose the ball, Norway counter, and they have masses and masses of space. That's how every goal happened. It was the same. It was very. I thought it was very naive. The approach was very naive from Spalletti last night, and I think there are various other Italian managers who would have approached that game a lot differently, and we probably would have walked away with a draw last night.
We'll come on to that in a minute about what other managers we could look at, but I think that I just want to talk just a little bit about what you said before about the respect of the team. Does he have the team? It looks like a team that he doesn't have the dressing room, consciously or unconsciously. There is no group, there is no spirit. There was all kinds of stories coming out that were being leaked out during the Euros that there had been almost like a mini rebellion demanding that he he plays a back three and that the spirit wasn't good. I mean, that showed on the pitch that there was no spirit. Okay, someone say there's a Kanye goal and the wild scenes. But, I mean, if you watch that Switzerland game, there was nothing. There was nothing at all. And, you know, again, in the lead up to this game, we see Acerbi refusing a call-up. We've seen him have problems with, Locatelli. There's obviously some problems between him and Mancini from Roma. That's obvious because when you have this number of centre-backs out, if you go to Rugani before you go to Mancini, that's obviously a personal issue there. There's no reason otherwise you would go to Rugani, who's a reserve at Ajax. And then, there's clearly issues there. I mean, you laugh. That's how ridiculous it is. So, I mean, I think that, I don't think he's good. And I think there's a difference between club management and international management. International management, you don't have long with the players. So it's not very long to get your tactical print across. It's a lot more about managing the group, about man management, about creating that group spirit. And Spalletti has shown throughout his time he's been completely incapable of doing that. And in fact, he makes it worse a lot. He puts his foot in it, like the way he handles the media. But, a day before this huge match, why is he moaning and complaining about talking about a like that Roberto Mancini put? I mean, what is he, a kid? Do you know what I mean? Oh, he liked a post against me. I mean, there's more important things than that.
I also think the responses of each of them in that situation was very telling in terms of their class and the way they handle things. I think Spalletti, in his kind of classic sense, was trying to, philosophize it and make something out of nothing. And Mancini said, "I'm not getting drawn into that." Yeah. There's a different level there. And with the Acerbi thing, I mean, imagine being one of those Inter players and how respected Acerbi is. He's not a Chiellini level player or a Cannavaro level player, but he is one of the best Italian centre-backs over the last 10 years. It consistently has been. And also what he's been through personally. He's so well respected in Italy. Well, in certain factions. And,
there was a bit of an issue there, last year, but yeah.
But to be Barella or any of those Inter players and Acerbi you're super close with, and then to see the way he's been treated by Spalletti publicly in the media, that's not gonna make them like him or want to play for him anymore. It was probably on the ground before, but it's even lower now. And I think, again, you watch those players play last night, and you could tell.
Yeah, you could tell, and that should answer the question. I mean, I think we're both in agreement that he should go. We'll see if that happens. We'll see over the next few days. But if he does go, the question would be who replaces him. So I'll read out a few Italian coaches who are potentially available, let's say. So I'll read them out, and then you tell me who you would probably choose from that, or if there's someone I missed, who you would go for. So Claudio Ranieri, he has officially retired, but he's retired many times before. Raffaele Palladino, after being sacked by Fiorentina. Daniele De Rossi. Some of these managers are actually in negotiations for clubs at the moment, so they would have to get a move on if they want to get them. Stefano Pioli is actually still in Saudi Arabia, but he's going to probably leave. He's also could join a club team. Francesco Farioli just left Ajax. Roberto Mancini, but obviously he fell out with Gravina, the president, so I don't know how likely that is, unless Gravina goes, who we'll come on to in a minute. Thiago Motta as well. So do any of those, who would you go for out of those, or anybody else?
I mean, the romantic answer is Ranieri, isn't it? His last swan song, taking Italy to a World Cup. And, as we all know, Ranieri has a wonderful history of taking teams who are down here, who are low, and who are, the morale is on the floor, and on the kind of spin of a dice, picking them up and getting their results. I mean, look at Roma. Look what he did with Roma this year. It was unbelievable. And I think his man management would be brilliant for this current Italy side. Failing that, I wouldn't mind De Rossi. He was part of the coaching staff at the Euros with Mancini. I think, again, he would be able to jig that squad up, and if you need to go away to Moldova and score 7 or 8 goals, which we now have to. De Rossi might be able to kind of get that out of the team. But I don't know, to be honest, I'm as long as he goes, I'm not too fussy. I'm really not. I'm not sure how much worse it can get than it is now, to be honest.
I agree. I think that when you always hear people say, but when you're talking about a manager should go, you always hear people say, yeah, but who would come in? Well, it can't get any worse. It can't get any worse than this. That's the thing. It literally can't get any worse than this because we basically have nothing to play for now until March 2026 with the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think we're pretty much. We'll come on to it. We're pretty much guaranteed a playoff place, even if we don't even come second because of the UEFA Nations League. And I think we're pretty much. If I worked it out correctly, I think unless France fail to qualify first, I think we're guaranteed. I think I'm right in saying that as long as France win their group, we're guaranteed a playoff place. I think. I might be wrong, but I think I'm correct in saying that. So we basically have nothing to play for until March 2026. So we need a new manager in to give them time to prepare for that playoff. That's what it's all about now. It's about the playoff because let's be honest, it's virtually impossible to finish first now. We're gonna need a miracle. So we need a new manager in, and it can't get any worse now than under Spalletti. So yeah, my choice would be Ranieri. For the reasons you said, I think he would create a group spirit. He's very good as that kind of, someone that takes over a crisis situation. And also, tactically, he knows how to use a back three. We've seen that at Roma this season, and that's important. Spalletti doesn't know how to use a back three. Ranieri does know how to use a back three. So, I think he would be good for that. The question would be, he's now taken an important kind of management position at Roma. He's just brought in Gasperini, and Roma is his heart as well. So would he want to put his beloved Roma, dump them, put them in the lurch? That's why I think it's difficult. Not because I think if he wasn't in that position, I think he would do it. I think he'd come out of retirement again.
I think
the problem is the Roma. I don't know whether he would just dump Roma, put them in the shit. Now I don't think he would do that. So that means who else do we get? And I think De Rossi, somebody could create a spirit. I'm not sure whether I'd go back to Mancini. I don't think that would happen with Gravina.
No.
But yeah, like you said, anyone, but
again, like let's call a spade a spade. We just lost 3-0 to Norway in a World Cup qualifier that puts us at risk of not qualifying for a World Cup. It cannot get worse.
Yeah. Well, let's also. I mean, those are calling for the head of Spalletti, but there are also many who are now calling for the head of the president of the FIGC, Gabriele Gravina. Now, in my opinion, he has to go. He should have gone as soon as we failed to qualify for the World Cup. If any serious nation, the head of the FA would go as soon as they failed to qualify for a World Cup. But this is Italy. Somehow this doesn't happen in Italy. It's Italian culture. I think he has to go, Gravina. But I don't think, and I will come on to this in a second, I think it's not just Gravina. I think the heads of all the key positions in Italian football should roll. They should. Because those that are calling the shots in not just the FIGC, but the Lega Calcio, involved with the Serie A, it's like when you've got a prime minister or a president in power and everybody's unhappy with how things are in the country. I think most nations are like that right now. Yeah. And they call for the prime minister or the president to go. We call for a general election. We need change. Let's get someone new in. And then nothing changes when the new person comes in because the system still remains. That is the issue of Italian football. We can get rid of Spalletti. We can get rid of the president, the guy at the top that's supposedly on paper, it's got his name at the head on the top of the door. But the system will still remain even if Gravina goes. So we need all the heads to roll in those in charge of the sporting, financial, commercial, the medical, the TV rights, youth development. This is a systematic problem in Italian football. And the fact that no changes were made after the 2 failed World Cups, well, what are we waiting for? That's why we're risk missing a third one.
And not only that, it was followed up by the embarrassment of Switzerland last year. And that still wasn't enough. There are, I think that, again, as you mentioned, that there are problems in Italian football that go way beyond what we could possibly begin to explore in this this conversation. But ultimately, Gravina has led Italy to not qualifying for a World Cup and one of the most embarrassing Euro performances, one of the most embarrassing Italy performances in a major tournament for a very long time. If that isn't enough to go, and now we risk not qualifying for another World Cup. If that isn't enough to go, I'm not entirely sure what is.
No, I agree. I agree completely. But we do also need to, and this is something that Nimmer and myself talk about a lot. So we won't talk for too long, but it does need repeating that the state of Italian football and the lack of Italian talent right now is shown by the results. If we've not qualified for a World Cup since 2014, could be 3 in a row. We've not won club football, not won a Champions League in 15 years. The players that we are producing, Italian players, we have to be honest. I'm a little bit older than you, but your football, you know your past. Compared to the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. I mean, it's. I think at the end we're going to play a game. How many of these players would get into a past Italy team? But who do we have to choose from? 32% of the league. I just checked it up. 32% of the league of players in the league last season were Italian. 32%. And then you look at some of the clubs, Milan, really 0 Italians in their starting 11. Juventus, maybe 2 outfielders, 3 outfielders. Atalanta the same. I think Napoli maybe about 4. You can go on and on through all the squads. And, our youngsters not getting a chance. I know you like your youth football, but we've been doing well in Italy national youth level, under 17, under 19s, under 20 World Cup runners up, winning those Euros for the unders. But then the players never develop. They never get a chance after.
Disappear.
Yeah.
It's like they vanish. You see these players win these tournaments, these youth tournaments, really, it's like they disappear off the face of the planet, only to be seen when they get bled into the squad when they're 27. For the first time.
And that's systematic. That's systematic failure. And then financially, we're broke. Our biggest teams, we said it after the Champions League final, our biggest teams are earning 400 to 600 million a year, less than the biggest Premier League and European teams. And then you look at our training. Look how many injuries going into this game. But it's always the same with Italy. Every single tournament or every single big qualifier, we're gutted. There's an injury crisis. Now, is that just coincidence? Is that just luck? Or is that because our training methods are outdated? Our training centers are outdated. It's all, everything all comes together. Crumbling stadiums, commercially, our marketing. You're involved in marketing. The ticketing, that people that want to watch games in Serie A outside of the country can't buy tickets because the games don't get announced and the tickets don't go on sale until 2 weeks before the games. We are so far behind the rest of the world on these things, and then that all comes together. It's a systematic problem that we have in Italian football. It's not just the manager, it's not just the president, it's everything. And until everything gets ripped up, the whole system gets ripped up, but all these people in power who are not there to try and help Italian football and are just there for their own benefit, until that changes, then this is going to keep happening. I don't know how many times we have to keep shouting it, but nothing. If it doesn't change after 2 World Cup failures, then when is it going to change?
But then it's exactly. I think England are a great example of what they did here with St George's Park and grassroots football and bleeding youth from a very, very young age. After the disaster in 2014 and then the disaster against Iceland, and you look, since England ripped up the rulebook and changed their approach to football completely. Look at how they've done. They got to a semi-final in 2018. They got to a final in 2020. Quarters lost against France, Kane penalty in 2022, and they got to another final this year. And England arguably have more talent than they've had for 20 years.
More.
All those players are playing at a high level in the best league in the world, week in, week out. I think it speaks for itself. I think Italy not potentially qualifying for 3 World Cups in a row is not even really that much of a shock at this moment in time.
No.
Like that, I think that's where we are. And it's why last night I said that I actually felt that last night was a lower point than Slovakia in 2010 or Macedonia, because I went into that game expecting to lose last night. I expected to lose badly against Norway in a World Cup qualifier, which I think is because at least with Macedonia you expected to win. Going into that Switzerland game in the Euros, you thought you had a chance, you know. Yeah, I think last night was an all-time low.
Yeah, well, the expectations have dropped as well as the standards. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when that happens, then it's sad. And I agree completely. The England example is the best example. And yes, of course, England has benefited a lot from the Premier League money. So all that Premier League money there is means that these clubs can all create the best academies. They can bring in the best sports science, the best nutritionists, the best training, the best coaches, the best, everything. And that's what we're saying about Italian football. It's all connected. It's a systematic issue. England have sorted out this. I remember in the 1990s when Italian football was at the top in everything, club and national. It was a golden generation of players. Everything was incredible. We had all the money. And England was a laughing stock. I remember growing up as a kid, we used to laugh at England. We used to laugh at them like people are laughing at Italy now and how we do things. We used to laugh at England, like how clueless they were, how outdated. It was a long ball. Their philosophy was long ball. I was an academy player at Luton Town at the time until I was 15 years old. Now, and then Luton was actually one of the better academies actually at the time. And the way they used to coach, it was long ball. It was long ball. This was what they used to. And now the academies are the best in the world now. They're among the best. They've got the best coaches. And look at the players they're producing because, like you said, they ripped it all up and they sorted themselves out. And that's why England are where they are now. Whereas Italy, even when the results are what they are, they just don't want to change. No. They don't want to change. It's incredible that they don't want to change after this. So, like you said, it's expected now.
What does it take? Well, like, what does it take? Does it take another World Cup? Because I'm not even convinced another World Cup, not qualifying for another World Cup would change it, to be honest.
I think the culture of Italy, you'll know, is that people are just want to hang on to their own power. It's all about keeping it in house. So like these people, these dinosaurs at the top of Italian football, but even younger ones, I know some of the figures that are in important positions and they don't care. They're out there flying to New York, just mixing with people like Tom Cruise and they're not in it, but they don't care about it anymore. They just care about the optics and how it looks and their own position and they couldn't care less. And that's why nothing changes. The important things they don't do anything about. So I don't know. I would love to say, a third World Cup will change things, but I don't think it will. I don't.
Not at all.
Yeah, but anyway, just before we finish off with a game, let's ask the question right now. I know this has been a really, really negative podcast, but what else could it be? Will Italy fail to qualify? I mean, let me just lay it out to everyone what situation we're in, right? So the top team in the group qualifies automatically. The second place team goes to a playoff. Now, Norway played 3 games. They've won all 3 games already, and they have a goal difference of +10 already. And the quality of the rest of the teams in the group means that it's virtually 99.9% certain Norway are going to win all the rest of the games in the group up until the final game of the group when they play against us. Now, what that means for us is we're going to have to win 7 out of 7, including that last game at home to Norway, to finish level on points with Norway. And then that would mean it comes down to goal difference to who finishes top. It's settled on goal difference, not on head-to-head. So we would need to overturn what is currently a -13 goal difference on Norway. So it's basically we're going to need absolute perfection and we're going to need some massive wins along the way, which if you look at our attack, I'm not sure we can be confident of that. So realistically, if we're being honest, we're looking at a playoff. And like I said, even if we somehow don't finish second, which I wouldn't rule out the way that we're playing, I think we are pretty much guaranteed of a playoff because it would need France to not come top, basically. So I think we should be okay for a playoff. And that will be March 2025. It will be it's really stupid how they organise this FIFA, but it will be a semi-final and a final, one-legged. We'll be at home for the first, that's for sure, because it's done on seedings for the first. We'll be at home in the semi-finals, but then the final, could be away. It's a 50-50. It depends on the draw, basically. And that's a one-legged as well. Now, I'll read out the teams that are likely to finish second in their group. Turkey, Sweden, Poland, Serbia, Czech Republic, Hungary, Greece, Croatia, maybe. I mean, you can play away against one of those teams, or even at home.
At home,
I mean,
I don't think
it's a risk, isn't it?
I honestly, every team you just mentioned, I would not be massively confident going into a game against it, which again is emblematic of where we are, where this Italy team is. Where, I mean, obviously the coach, the players, and again, I would love to think there's a chance of us possibly going into that Norway game, and we only need to beat them 1 or 2-0, and we could potentially finish first. Italy don't beat teams big in qualifying. Generally, we had a few big results with Mancini in qualifying, but generally we don't smash teams, especially going away to Estonia, Northern Europe. No, definitely not. I cannot see us getting that goal difference back. So yeah, if we do end up coming second, touch wood, again, much like the final, it's a toss of a coin. I think us going through is on the toss of a coin as well. I wouldn't be confident really going against any of those sides you've mentioned.
No, certainly away from home. Can you imagine that in a one-legged? It'd be like a final, and you're away from home, and you've got the crowd against you.
Somewhere like Turkey.
Turkey, yeah, or Serbia or Croatia. Can you imagine the Balkans? I mean, they are real tough places to go to. And also, there's also the psychological angle. We had 2 failed playoffs in a row for World Cup, Sweden and then Macedonia. That's going to play on its mind, or play on our minds as well. The pressure is going to be unbearable. I don't trust it. I believe, based on the current FIFA rankings, assuming we come, we qualify for the playoff, it's at the moment it's a 50-50 chance between Sweden and Macedonia for the semis, by the way. So that would be that's how it is now. Obviously the rankings could change until then, but yeah, Sweden or Macedonia at the moment. We're playing Sweden or Macedonia in the semi-finals, which is poetic, really, to be honest with you. But it's not good. It's not good at all.
Not at all. I think it's interesting, actually. You touched upon, we haven't mentioned it before, but you touched upon the pressure. And I think a lot of people who maybe don't follow the national team as much, would just assume because of the players, we probably lack more quality than we ever have done. You would assume the pressure's less, but those 2 World Cup failures compounded mean I actually think the pressure's more than ever. And I think it will play on those players' minds massively, because 3 World Cups in a row is a travesty.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it does. It's not a cliche. When you have repetitive failure, especially in certain situations, it does play on you. We've seen that. Juventus, for example, is always talk about Champions League finals when they get to a Champions League final. Not that they've got a chance of getting to another one for a long time, but it became such an obsession and such a mental block that they just froze. It's become probably a similar problem with Inter now in Champions League finals. Maybe it's become an issue. Too much pressure, and I think it's similarly with Italy. It's gonna play on them as well. So we'll see how things go. It's going to be pretty depressing next 9 months, I think, for the Italy national team until those playoffs come along. Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah. At least we'll have a wonderful Serie A to.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, isn't it? Look at the managers,
coaches.
I'm not sure if it was you that tweeted. Somebody tweeted it anyway. Like, these are our managers for the big clubs next season in the Champions League, and it's Tudor at Juventus, Kivu at Inter, Juric. I mean, what is going on there? Juric at Atalanta, and Conte's the odd one out at Napoli. So I mean, that's pretty depressing as well, isn't it?
Horrendous.
Yeah. Anyway, just before we finish, so this is just a bit of fun for our. Well, it's not really fun. It's a bit depressing as well. For our socials, so just to see how far Italy have fallen. The last time Italy played a World Cup game, which was in the 2014 World Cup, Italy played against Uruguay, lost 1-0 and actually went out. So we're going to see how many of the players from the current Italy strongest 11 will get into that team in 2014, and we're both going to give the name of the player of who we think would get in. So they both played the same formation. They both played 3-5-2. So it's an easy one, easy straight shootout to do between the positions. So if we start off with the goalkeeper, I'll go first for each one. So goalkeeper, Buffon. Centre back, I'm going to go Bonucci, Baselli, Chiellini.
Yep, BBC. No question.
Yeah, no question. Let's do the wing backs. So I'm going to go right wing back. I'm probably going to go Darmian.
Yep. I would go Darmian.
He was the 2014 World Cup right wing back. Left wing back, I'm going to actually go with Federico Di Marco. I'm going to go with 2025.
Yeah, I'll go with Dima as well.
Yeah, and that's De Sciglio was the player in 2014. Midfield 3. Now, this is a tricky one. Now, thing is that usually, like I would say, Barella has a chance of getting in normally. And not even Tonali, because I think they are top players. But based on the performances we've seen, especially Barella's performances, I'm probably going to go for the midfield 3 of 2014, which is Marchisio, Verratti, Pirlo.
I agree completely. Again, no questions asked for me. Again, Barella and Tonali are both wonderful players in their own right, but I think that midfield 3 is in each position is better than our current midfield 3.
Yeah. And an attack, Balotelli and Immobile were the attackers in 2014, and now we would probably say Keane and Retegui at the normal time. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna leave out Immobile's not getting in. Okay, I'm not putting Immobile in. I'll probably go. This is a tough one. I'm gonna go Balotelli, Keane.
Balotelli's in, and I'm Immobile's biggest hater. I'm as much of an Immobile hater as you are. I think based on his current goal scoring record for Italy, I would probably go Balotelli and Retegui.
Yeah,
because his goal to game ratio is pretty good at the moment. So, and I can't pick him up.
I'm maybe being unfair on Retegui as well, not picking him because his goal record even for Atalanta is great. I just think he also needs service, doesn't he? And we're not giving him service. Whereas I think Keane can at least kind of make something out of do something on his own.
That's true.
But then as a partnership, would Balotelli and Keane work together? I don't know. But yeah, fair enough. But the bottom line is this: what are we looking at? 2, maximum 2. I think that's it. 2. We've both gone for 2. So 2 players from the current Italy team would get into the 2014 World Cup team. And remember, this is a 2014 World Cup team who flopped. They went out in the group stage with 1 win and 2 losses. So we've even fallen from there to where we are now. And if we went to the 2006 World Cup team, I think we would say 0.
I don't think that needs to be done. Yeah,
we were thinking of doing that, but then we thought, well, what's the point? It's just going to be 0. It's going to be no players. So there we are. Okay, right. Well, let's leave it at that. Thanks, Alfie, for coming on for your first time. Sorry again, it's such horrible circumstances. We will be back next week we've got a really big interview coming up. I don't want to reveal the name, but it's with an Italy player from when we were good, basically. A top Italy player from when we were good is coming on the show at the start of next week, and we'll try and ask him about the current Italy as well. We'll definitely have a Q&A. We're probably going to have a Monday show as well, just finalising that with Nima when he's back from his weekend away. So have a good weekend, or try and have a good weekend, everybody, and we will see you next week. Ciao, ciao.